welcome back to the Book to Draw podcast. Mike, I like your hat, Hitman.
Yeah, I thought it was very fitting to wear my Hitman hat for our review.
We've got
today.
the Canucks, yes, and the
Yes.
Hitman's Canadian hero. And I think we're just going to jump right into it. So Maple Leaf Pro debuted on TSN last week, and we had some issues getting the video to you, but we made it happen. We're not going to talk about how, but
Right.
the show opened up with a pretty cool video package just to kind of laying out what's happening here. And there was some current wrestlers mixed in with some older wrestlers. And then they pitched into Mauro Ranallo and Don Callis welcoming us to the broadcast. Anything stand out to you there? Or I thought it was well done. The video looked great. Mauro and Don are cool. And it was a big event, and it felt like a big event.
Yeah, I thought it was a perfect choice for the video. And I think that they could have utilized some instances from those video for clarification on this show, which I know we will talk about before going into it. And that's kind of the benefit of watching it and having input after the fact, because hindsight's always 2020. But if you're pre-writing a show, I think you have to look into kind of every avenue that something can lead to and see what the best fit is, one for the overall show, but the episodic nature of wrestling. Because wrestling, unlike anything really on TV, unless it's reruns, is 52 weeks a year. Every year, as long as they're on TV. And the way to hook people is to, literally hook them, right? You have to have an episodic TV, things to call back to. You have this video library that you can utilize. And they did a good choice on their opening video. I think the opening with Mauro and Don was perfect. I often think about writing TV, and that was something I took, one, the in-ring aspect from ECW, but back when JCP or Mid South or all those type of promotions would open up, they would always kind of open up on the desk. They would always open up with the commentators or the promoter talking about what's going to be on TV tonight, so that you see some action, you see somebody kind of briefly give you the Cliff's Note versions of what you're going to see tonight, and hopefully that hooks you to stay tuned if you've never watched it before. So for a debut episode, I thought it was done really well. I think that Don and Mauro have defined characters. Don's definitely, the smart aleck heel, and Mauro Ranallo is more of the excited wrestling historian, play-by-play. But I think he adds so much more than play-by-play. Like, I know some people get sick of his enthusiasm, but at least, that's the chatter that you read when you see reviews or see people writing about it. But to me, I think that adds excitement to it. Like, hearing somebody speak excitingly about something that I'm passionate about, that I'm watching, I think helps excite me. Not only just for the knowledge. So I thought that was a pretty strong open. I think maybe they could have made a little bit more effort to bring up Josh as the first MLP champion, at least this new, incarnation of it, because I think that could be a significant hook for future television. And clearly they're working at some way with AEW. So using Josh Alexander moving forward for TV tapings, I believe wouldn't be an issue, or at least to get enough to tell an eventual story, which I think they laid the groundwork on this episode. But like most things in wrestling, there's always things that could be improved.
Yeah, and I think I'll add one little caveat is that, I'm sure they have access to Josh, but I think this would be the insider stuff where, like, we don't know where his medical issues are at. Like, maybe he's 6 months down the road, or
I agree.
So, but I agree with you. Like, he's definitely one of the biggest names they have access to. That's also Canadian.
And to play devil's advocate, if you're an episodic TV show, I'm sure they signed more than a 6-month deal, right? So I'm assuming that at least utilizing that, because why not at least get him a return as a larger name, as a Canadian talent? And if you start, planting that seed in your debut episode, it would have more meaning whenever you do want to bring him back as a former champion, as a Canadian talent, as somebody that's one of the most widely recognized that would be a regular for the company, and he was the past champion.
Mhm. So then they went to another promo, and this was with Scott D'Amore, and he was, I think, just kind of laying more groundwork of what was happening here. Is that Maple Leaf Pro is this storied history in this city of Toronto, and now it was back on television, and they were bringing back the name and things like that. Anything stand out here for you?
I think that the message and the verbiage that Scott spoke was ideal. I think it fit. I think that the focus was more on him speaking
Yeah,
rather than maybe going from video package of where Maple Leaf Pro and Canadian wrestling in Toronto kind of stands on the map, and then instead of showing him, maybe show some current footage because they've taped a couple shows. You know what I mean? Um, he has footage of plenty of the guys. I think it would have been better option to promote the wrestlers rather than the promoter, because I just don't feel that that is where the strength lies. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's almost self-serving to, like, I'm the star of this show, and I don't think that's needed because he didn't play a part on the TV and just being known as like the guy who's in charge now. I feel it was a waste of screen time that could have been provided for the newer stars, because any time that you show them in video, I feel that will strengthen. Oh, I know a little bit here, I know a little bit there. And you start to expect that when you're watching. And if you build that video package correctly, then it leaves you to like, oh, I wonder about that guy. That little spot looked impressive, or this sounded good. I wonder what it all looks like when it's put together and when it's in a full match or a full interview.
Yeah, and like I always keep I always kept checking myself watching this, and that, like, I'm trying to think of the average viewer in
Yeah,
which, like, they wouldn't know who Scott Demore was.
right,
And even like if I was a casual and I stumbled upon this, I'd be like, who was that guy talking in the beginning?
right.
Right? Because I don't even think they introduced him. They just kind of had him talking,
Yeah, it's like it's expected to know who he is
which
because it's Canadian wrestling and he's, the
but he's a
forefront.
backstage guy,
Yeah,
basically.
I
Like, I mean, I
mean,
know he's been on television, but like he's basically a backstage guy.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, but it was well done, well put together.
yes,
And there was good points and things like that. So we get into our first match: Jonathan Gresham versus Stu Grayson. Stu Grayson's the champion, and they went through a commercial break, but I think I didn't have the times, but it was probably like what, like 15 minutes or something like that.
probably close to. Yeah, it was the longest match on the TV, which I understand why they opened with it, and I also understand why it was received the most time, because you want to put emphasis on the MLP championship at the open and then close it how they did, which puts more emphasis on the other championship that they wanted to emphasize. I think that it was a poor selection on how to present the match. It seemed like there was no real identity. It was almost like Gresham is such a great wrestler that you want to see him wrestle, but it was almost like he was put in a position to be a heel, but didn't quite wrestle as a heel other
Yeah,
than begging off. And I think that doesn't fit Jonathan Gresham. I think that there should have been a reason for this match, from my understanding, and I've watched the show, so I shouldn't say understanding, you know, where Stu won the title after Josh had to vacate it. It was like a gauntlet, and it was done in a way that didn't optimize the babyface reaction you necessarily want. And I think they could have utilized that situation with a different story in the ring, but that would be too much to break down right now. that could have this opening match be about respect. And I would almost have a little promo of Stu and Gresham before the title match.
Yeah.
And I would kind of have them both be the baby face so you could have that wrestling match. If those are the two people you're going to put in this match. Ideally, I think you put Stu against a heel. And I think you have a babyface heel dynamic to open your show to uh it's just a better and easier story for people to follow and be behind your babyface if you're pushing a babyface champion. That's what you want, right? You want sympathy and support. And babyface matches automatically kind of split the audience. But if you're gonna go with the let's tell a classic wrestling match to open the show, then you have to let them be babyface, but have a reason for them to be babyface. Let it be known that this is about competition. This is about being a champion. Something, whatever we pre-booked in the gauntlet, and bring up Josh being hurt. So I think baby faces should be like, Josh, whenever you're ready, if I'm champion or when I'm champion, you got a rematch or whatever it may be. You bring Josh into play because that's a story we can tell later. And then that's wrestled as a babyface match. Maybe Stu catches one quick on Gresham. And then here's where I would have changed something, but we're not quite at the post match promo in the back, so I don't want to jump ahead. But that's my thoughts on that match because I think Stu is an unbelievable wrestler. I think that Gresham is an unbelievable wrestler. I don't think this helped display their best attributes. And in doing so, I think it left some to desire because of how capable those two are. And I don't know if that's an individual thing. I don't know if that's a agent thing. I don't know where the issue arose from. But again, hindsight 2020. But when you think of something, I feel you should seek out every direction, right? If I turn right, where am I going? If I turn left, where am I going? If I go straight, where am I going? If I turn around, where am I going? I need to know my destination before I can pick the route. And I feel like they're picking routes without the final destination in mind or even in sight. It's got to be that light of the light at the end of the tunnel for the viewer to be hooked to go, man, I need to not watch next week or I need to DVR next week, but I need to pay attention because that's intriguing to see where it leads.
Yeah, and I think I picked up enough pieces of evidence, at least from what my notes, is that I'm guessing Gresham was supposed to be a heel, but I think it wasn't clear
Right.
by any means. But I think, like, even I wrote down, I think someone said on commentary that this is a version of Gresham I've never seen before, something like that. So
Yeah, and I
that
know they tried to cover it up, but like the
yeah,
delivery wasn't full heel.
yeah. Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
It was
It
just
was almost like
inconsistent. Yeah,
it was like a babyface trying to show heel tactics, and I think the only two solutions for this match was clear cut babyface. Maybe later on in the
Mhm.
match something causes a little bit of aggression, or have a full fledged heel against the babyface. And I just feel that the lines weren't drawn in the sand clear enough to progress, especially Stu as a babyface champion.
Yeah. And I wrote that in my notes, is that I feel like if like I no doubt the idea was to put on a kick-ass match to start
Yes.
off the show, and but you also want to get the champion over, and you get a babyface champion over by having them overcome adversity.
Yes.
So I'm debating too if like Gresham was the right choice. Like, I'm guessing they wanted to give him a good hand, but the height difference was difficult. Like, how do you have a guy that's, and I like Gresham. He's short. It is what it is.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. That's what I'm saying. I think that Gresham could be a heel, and his height, could be used to his advantage in telling the story of that. Right?
But they didn't
Wrestling,
play it.
yeah, they just like I said, wrestling, it's very regular that wrestling is wrong. You can't look at them. They did everything fundamentally right, but in the wrong place. Like Gresham took that belly to back suplex and then bagged off. That's the wrong place. That's the time to sell for your baby face, right? Instead, it was like, no, this was a little, wrist lock, and I grabbed the ropes, and then was begging off. Like, easy there. It just didn't fit. So there was some things that they tried to articulate with their bodies and mannerisms that didn't quite fit what they should have been telling, which made it very unclear exactly what they were telling.
Mhm.
And when you go away with some questions like that, you hope you find answers, but it didn't really leave any type of space for answers. It was just done and over with. There was no big deal after. You believe that this wasn't just the conclusion of the story. And I may be wrong, but there was nothing to leave the door open, which I think is wrong if you've left the door open. Because then when it comes back around, I feel it seems lazy. I think those breadcrumbs are very important.
You're saying in terms of these two wrestlers.
Yes, like that.
Okay. Because, well,
Like if you're, as I said, because as it was performed, it's like heel tendencies. Naturally, the story I would want to see is how do we make this match benefit bringing it back for a
yeah.
full heel Gresham, right? And there was nothing left to bring back a full heel Gresham.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree with your thinking. I'm guessing where their head was that because they had I call him Tony because I know him as Tony. It's Rohan Raja.
Yeah,
They had him doing the monitor thing where he was
I'm
watching the
gonna. Yeah,
match,
I know. Is he?
and
This
I
is
was just gonna
where.
segue it. Yeah, I was just gonna segue it. So he was watching during the match, and then he went into a promo. If you want to start off with the promo.
Yeah, so this is where I think it all kind of goes in together. This is where I feel like a rhythm that could have happened that was mistaking. I think we could have cut the Stu Gresham match a little bit if it was just babyface, strictly athletic competition to prove who is the best. They do those little promos. That's why we're cutting a little bit of time. We're getting rid of those promos. Or sorry, we're adding in those two little promos, taking a little bit of time, giving a backstory on the title, why they're fighting, why there's going to be a straight up competition. Have a good athletic babyface versus babyface match. Go to this promo. Well, the one thing it felt very unnatural. Like it was very recited. Like it was, this is my lines, and I have to hit the lines exactly as is. And that takes me out of the feeling natural. I wish the part at the back may be shorter. And I think he should have transitioned through the curtain to like kind of shit talk Gresham and Stu about maybe those two shake hands after the match. It was the babyface match. And he just comes out saying, I don't know why you shook your hand. You're shaking hands when neither one of you is a real champion. I'm the only real champion that matters because Josh is injured and you're just, a replacement. I hate to use, what do they use for UFC? And now they're using
Interim.
for, yeah, like I don't like that term. So I think the heel not using that term puts a little bit of heat. And then those two are kind of like, what the F, right? And then we do something later with them again, but we need them face to face so that we know the story now. And getting them in front of the audience, I think would have been good. Because I've wrestled in Windsor, and it's almost as if Scott has went to them and kind of threatened all of them with bodily harm unless they react how they're supposed to react. Have you ever realized
Wow.
that Windsor's like really good with reacting
Yeah.
how they're meant to react?
Yeah.
Like it's like somebody's in them like, hey guys, this is the story they're trying to tell. Can we cheer for them? And it actually makes for a great wrestling crowd. I'm not even trying to be like, I know I'm making the joke about Scott, but
Well,
It
it's
really
true.
seems that way, but it seems that way sometimes with those audiences, right? They were always really strong when I was with TNA there. BCW was always, a heavily touted promotion because the crowd was lively and they drew good houses, and uh, that was just a thing. So it's like, I think they could have taken more advantage of things. Now I think TV now or TV time's about 44 minutes and something seconds. So I would have to really look at the run sheet, look when the breaks are to figure out exactly where it goes. Um, but I think they could have better utilized that whole stretch. It's like we were in like B negative C space, and we could have been in B plus A minus space.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like we could have really started off with something significant that set the tone and opened up a lot of possibilities for strings to be pulled at to get people to tune in the next week and the week after and the week after, because there's
And it's as you're talking, I'm starting to like really hyper analyze this, but like they do the match and then Rohan Raja just starts talking to a camera, which they
yeah,
didn't really parse through. Was he talking to the people in the ring, or was he,
right,
which then kind of like, which if he came out, it would clean that up,
yeah,
and you get the visual of
yes,
that, which is good, especially for the crowd, which we're all about the crowd. And I mean, even too, because we'll jump ahead, but later something happens. We'll get to it. But like if the baby face insulted him or something and made fun of
right,
him, it would set up that like he would want to like jump him later. It just
yes,
kind of cleans things up there. But I wrote down the same thing. To be honest, I don't remember specifically what he said, just something about who he is and what he's going to do. But he came off very antsy.
yeah,
And like you can watch it where he's like kind of like moving around. And I can speak to this from acting where like if you want to be confident, you want to plant your feet, you want to look right into the person's eyes or the camera or whatever, and you want to state your piece like you fucking believe it.
yeah, yeah,
And way he was, and yeah, definitely he definitely wrote this whole thing out and recited it, or he was given it. But like it was he can talk at least, like it's
yeah, yeah,
he can talk. It's just not you want believable, right?
yeah. It didn't seem like it was coming from him.
Yeah, yeah,
It felt like good words, but a little bit too thought out, a little bit too strategic. And like, yes, you could argue heels are strategic, but when you sound too strategic, it's hard to pull yourself into the believability factor. It's such wrestling is so weird because it's like it's acting, but it's not acting.
hmm
It's
hmm
it's got to be it's got to be your best performance ever. This is you got to go out there every segment you're on wrestling and try to win an Oscar.
and you got
And the
one
only way you're going to
take.
win an Oscar is if people believe you, right?
Yeah,
You anybody can play a character, but not everybody can play that character to a believability degree that people go, man, that movie was great, that TV show was great, that character was great, this actor's great, and that's what you want to do in one take. I mean, it was backstage, so not one take. I don't know him very well. I've met him a couple times, heard nothing good but good things about him, but it seemed like would that be a case where they felt more comfortable him behind, a
sure.
pre-tape where he could, maybe take a couple takes, or was it in one take and that's why he worded it that way? Is he not comfortable being in front of there's so many factors to understand that I feel one thing I found that was really missing in wrestling was the promoters, bookers, writers, whatever you want to call them, kind of just having a brief conversation with everybody, seeing what they envision. And sometimes it's so far off, but your vision can create a vision within my vision that makes it more suitable for you, but is still getting across the same points that we need to develop the story we need to develop.
But yeah, it's true. Like we, it wrestling's a team sport, but it's not a team sport. And
Right.
like you want all of the ship's sails to be in the same direction. And if
It's, I mean, yeah, you want to position all your players in their
yeah.
best role possible to produce the best outcome possible. I mean,
Mhm.
I think that's for anything in life. Right?
Well, yeah. Um, so we got a Giselle Shaw package next. She's the women's champion, and she
Yep.
kind of just laid some things out. This it was good. It highlighted who she is,
Yeah.
and it was well edited. I don't have too much on that. Do you have anything else on that?
No, it's funny. I think I met Giselle in 2014, maybe 2015. Shoot, maybe it was 16. It was around that time. It was within those 3 years.
Yeah.
Um, have you ever worked for Danny Duggan?
No, but I know who he is.
Okay. So Danny Duggan used to, I think he still does. He runs
Yeah, he
CWE
does.
tours. And I did one with Giselle around there. And I thought she was very impressive wrestling. We talked quite a bit on that, on that tour because it was the first time I met her. And she was very receptive of wanting advice. She would constantly ask for me or somebody else who was on the tour that might be more experienced there to watch the match. And it really felt like she was listening to our advice. Not trying to take any credit for where she is. I'm just saying I think she's one of those people, one of those wrestlers that constantly does strive to perform better. And I think the promo was what needed to be. I think we could all use maybe some refining and being more comfortable with expressing exactly what we want. I think sometimes all wrestlers can pigeonhole themselves before they become comfortable. And when they become comfortable, they become unstoppable. Like the best promo guys are ones that just became comfortable being who they are no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that a lot of wrestlers fail to do because they don't believe in what they're trying to portray, right? They don't fully believe in their wrestling persona as much as they need to really translate to bring everything home. And I think Giselle's almost there and really has an appeal in her confidence in what she presents.
Then I think we went to the commercial. We came back with a Psycho Mike package. Do you know Psycho Mike?
Yeah,
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
very
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
We used to
This
ride together quite often.
oh, good. Okay, this I love the package. The only thing was he wasn't on the show, and I was like, you know,
Yeah, but see, and from my recollection, it never really said he's gonna be there next week either, right?
that's also true. I don't think it did.
So that's where those little things matter. Like you need to show it, or in 2 weeks, whatever it's gonna be,
Hmm.
right? But if you show a package, which you said, you like, I like too. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
I really thought it was fantastic, and
I think it was the
to
best one
not
on the show. Really,
100%. And I
really.
think that not capturing that hook was a misuse. All they needed was like Psycho Mike comes to MLP Mayhem in 2 weeks or 1 week. I don't even care if somebody says it. It could have went across the bottom of the screen. It could have just appeared on the screen after something because that package was so good. And I would have actually done a couple because it seemed like the beginning of a longer story.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I would have said maybe in 3 weeks, Psycho Mike debuts on Mayhem, and then we have 2 more weeks to insert more video packages to make his debut feel important because clearly they feel it's important, or they wouldn't have showed the promo package. And from personal knowledge, I think he's a fantastic wrestler. I think that he's found himself with what he does now. I
Hmm.
think he gets great reactions in front of whatever crowd he's in front of.
Hmm.
And he looks the part. I mean, he's
Hmm.
a great Canadian talent to put stock in. And if you're gonna, I say go all the way. As I said, I think it should have said maybe 2 or 3 weeks, even 4, honestly. He appears and do little
And
more
do more
vignettes.
promo
Yeah.
packages. They could
Yeah.
like
Just
lean more into it.
effective, small, short. effective packages that build to that debut, and then that debut is important. And once you put importance on something, it usually helps build equity in it.
Yeah, and I know Psycho Mike too, and he's super talented. And
Yes.
I mean, you said everything that I would say. He always gets a reaction. He engages with the crowd, and he's got a gimmick that's
Yeah.
that's fun and entertaining and all that. So, um, yeah, like I said, best promo package on the show. And then we came back and we had Gama Singh Jr. in the ring doing a promo, and I think, yeah, I think this was kind of like Rohan Raja's promo that he just kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of like he just kind of he went like the cheap route where he's like
Yes.
stop talking when I'm talking, just kind of thing. But like he didn't really get across anything like interesting about him. It just kind of, and then I mean he's gonna get uh, interrupted by Rhino and beat up anyways, which then like it wasn't really
Or
going to do much favors for him anyways. But
yeah. See, for the sake of this show, and again, this is my thought when I'm building TV, okay? I'm thinking to get how to get the most out of everything. I like Gama Singh Jr. I
so do
was in
I.
TNA with him. A great guy,
Yeah, for sure.
but unfortunately, he's never been put into a position to perform even with TNA and here at the level he's capable of performing. But why not build around it so you can get at least one performance out of him because he's capable of it?
Mhm.
I would have had that talking be almost zero before Rhino comes out, and him almost talking over Rhino coming out. I say hit the music, but he's almost like, what are you doing out here? And it's just gore, yay,
Mhm.
leave, no match. Because then we have something to come back to. And it
Mhm.
saves us a little time because I have some more ideas for the show
Mhm.
that I don't think this was necessarily needed to be that long because I understand Gama Singh getting heat, but with Rhino, you use Rhino for the reaction that Rhino gets because he was a star for so long in so many different incarnations in so many different places. Recently with recently with NXT. The ECW stuff, his prior WWE run. Any TNA fans, it's like he has enough equity built up that he gets a reaction. Get that pop and save the heat so you could utilize Gama Singh more than just that role every couple months. You could make this into a mini angle to make Rhino even more lovable to your audience that you're trying to captivate, and also build Gama as a heel. Because if you don't end up using him in a full time role, he's a great manager, which he was doing before in TNA.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that he should be a manager because he can't wrestle. I'm just saying I want to see him with a job because he's talented, he works hard, and he's a good dude. So maximize him. You can use him as a great manager, but get to a point where that makes the most sense if that will allow you to use him more. And I think giving him this angle with Rhino could accomplish a lot of things. But again, that's just me thinking how long? We got 52 weeks from the start date till the next year. I want to have already in my head, and plans change, don't get me wrong, but I want to already have an idea of what I would want on the first anniversary of my debut on TV, my first TV episode.
Mhm.
Like that
Mhm.
wouldn't be ideal.
Yeah, book
So,
backwards.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and I mean, I mean, I wrote that down too. Rhino basically beats him, and Gama has no out. Which, as a
Yeah.
heel, you always need an out if you're putting the babyface over, so you can come back for
Yes.
future business. And again, like I think I'll just emphasize one other point where it's like we're we're critiquing what we're seeing on the TV, but it's not necessarily the direction that we would go. Because you mentioned making Gama a manager, maybe not necessarily what you would do, but you're saying with the context that was presented, that's a direction that they could potentially go.
Yeah. Yeah. You said I'm opening up. I always want I want to leave stories open ended enough that it's not super clear what path I'm going to take, but multiple paths are clear. So it doesn't seem like one's coming out of left field.
Mhm.
It's like,
And
oh, wait, oh, yeah, that that does make sense. Like just enough of a hook to when people go, damn, I did see that coming, but I didn't see it coming. And that's the beauty about it. You
Because
need to
you
know,
don't know which direction.
right? You don't know now, but if you leave paths for multiple directions, and you can leave them for dependence on who gets over as babyface or heel, what kind of reactions do people get? How good are they in that role? Like all these things matter. So if you have multiple ways to turn within an angle, then you're not trying to force something, but it still makes sense. Like wrestling isn't linear all the time. Sometimes it's got to take a route that doesn't seem like it's gonna make it there safely. But then when you get there, you're like, damn, I don't think there was a better way to get here
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
experience was worth it for the payoff. And in wrestling, what are we working towards? Every
Yeah.
time we're wrestling, we're performing, we're thinking, we're booking, we're writing, we're acting, we're doing everything for the ultimate payoff.
Mm-hmm.
And the hardest thing is you have to be able to multiply pay off multiple things multiple times a year for multiple years in a row without getting stale.
And there's never an end.
Right,
Like any movie or book or anything, there's always an end.
right.
Wrestling never ends.
That's why you got to leave yourself with a bunch of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you need like somebody maybe with some like Hollywood or script type experience, but then you also have to have some wrestling minds that not only think of logical wrestling now, they also have a great knowledge of the past because there's a lot of things that could be utilized now that aren't utilized. And when they are utilized, they sometimes aren't just laid out clear enough so that when you get the final result, it's like choppy. You know what I mean? It's like trying to tune into when I was growing up a wrestling pay per view, but it was all squiggly lines, and I just wanted to make out whatever I could so that I knew a little bit of what happened before it, I could get it on VHS tape or whatever it may be because I wasn't ordering pay per view all the time, or my friend would get it, or there would be a replay, or we'd figure out how to get it for free, whatever way. So it's like if my picture gets scrambled, I don't get a complete picture, and that's what I think most wrestling runs into is they change direction without ever having an easy transition to change that direction because they didn't have the foresight that change might be required.
And so then we had another promo package with the tag team champions,
Yep.
and I don't remember what their names were, and I wrote down
The
MVP
first faction,
package. Which, sorry,
first faction.
was that it? Okay,
Yep.
so that's my bad. But they're tag team champions, and there's three of them,
Yeah.
and the third guy's not a manager. And I just thought that, and I think they did a thing where like the other two were champions, and then the other one wasn't, or some. They've been
I
doing a
think
bit of
so.
that or
Again,
something.
you kind of have to. That was lack of the promo, right? The promo has to
Yeah,
tell a story. I think that's the hard thing is, and I think this is difficult because you could go into this debut on TSN relying on the information that you have provided with previous MLP shows. But unless you tell them to your audience or show them to your audience has no clue.
well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think that's the wrong approach. I think
Right.
on a television debut, they should be laying all of this stuff out like they've never
I
seen
agree.
it,
I agree.
right?
That's what I'm saying. So, like, I think the promo should have been more of an introduction promo as far as what we need to see from him. Because from my understanding of what has happened before and what I've seen multiple combinations promoted in tag team matches in their live events. Now, the Freebird rule can be utilized for great storytelling. So if that is something that they're doing with that angle, I have no problem with it. But you have to make it blatantly clear because the heels are blatantly using a rule to their advantage, which is the point of them being heels. So you need to highlight the advantage that they're trying to give themselves.
Mhm. And really, they really just kind of highlighted the main guy. I guess he was the only guy that was talking, Sheldon.
I don't know Bryce very well. I do know Brent, and I think it's safe to say that as talented as Brent is and has been over his career, he doesn't speak up. And because he doesn't speak up, I don't think he's very comfortable cutting promos.
Mm,
And Sheldon seems comfortable.
mm.
So I understand that. And I don't know much about Bryce. I've only seen some stuff that online and exchanged some
I think
messages.
he's still finding his voice.
Yeah, yeah, and that's fine. You know, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's good point to have Sheldon say something, but I don't even remember him really referring or speaking on any attributes to the individual person.
For the
Like
group.
define your roles. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
Define
yeah.
it, define that, you know, we do have the Freebird rule. Define who Sheldon is, define who Brent is, define who Bryce is, instead of just we're the tag team champions, or you know, I'm not word for word, but the message, I understood the message they delivered, but this is the debut episode. This is the first time you're hoping to attract people, so you need a hook in. You can still make it a wrestling promo and not like the hi, my name is, you know, Brent Banks and I'm a Canadian and I wrestle for Maple Leaf Pro and I'm the tag team champion and we're better than all the no, like you still need to do it within character. So I need to know exactly what the group idea is. I need to know where the story is going with these tag team champions so that we can develop what their roles are as performers, as talkers, as wrestlers, whatever. Because that's like, I don't think people realize how important picking the individuals of a stable are. Okay, let's go
Mhm,
back to the Four Horsemen. Okay, Ric Flair was this like god of an athlete, womanizer that had everything every guy wanted, and that's why they hated him. That was his character, right?
mhm,
Then you had Tully, which thought he was just as good, but he was a chicken shit. He would get beat up all the time in these tag matches or in these singles matches when he's national champion, and he'd pull one out. That was his role. I remember sending my favorite match, Ronnie Garvin. Well, one of my favorite matches, Ronnie Garvin versus Tully Blanchard for the national title. And a good friend of mine said, "Man, I never realized how good Ron Garvin was, but mostly what Tully was doing was selling and begging off and taking stuff." I go, "Yeah, that was his role of the Horseman. Like that was literally his role. Because when Horseman started, Ole and Arn were the guys that were the muscle. Flair was at the top, and Tully was like the annoying, confident, cocky heel that said he was the best, but when it came down to it, he always used some kind of sleight of hand to get the advantage to win so he could then proclaim he's the best. There was defined roles within each position, and that's why some changes and additions to these groups don't make sense. You need defined roles, and they didn't define their roles enough in their opening statement, right? That's your mission statement. That's the hey world, we're here and you better recognize us because this is our chance. They got to feel that. They don't understand. Me seeing all these kids get work visas, I am so effing happy for them because there was not a route for that.
mhm,
We had to travel to the States and worry about getting banned before we could get sponsored by a US company to give us a work visa. And then,
mhm,
even then, I know plenty of people that just had the company sponsor them and they had to pump the money forward themselves to get the visa.
mhm,
I did not. I lucked out after my match with Davey. Jim Cornette himself with Hunter, who is the booker for TNA. Sorry, Delirious
Hilarious.
were bowing. And as they were bowing, this is on my life because Truth Martini was there and Davey Richards was there. They were bowing at me and Davey for a performance. And the first words went out of Jim Cornette's mouth were, "Hey, I'm getting you a raise and your work visa paid for tomorrow."
Mm,
And I got my work visa and a raise. So it's like you had to work, and that was in 2012. I was traveling to the States since 2004. So, you know what I mean? And every time it was a risk. It was a real risk. So them getting that, I think this is such a big opportunity for Canadian wrestling. I have my personal differences with Scott D'Amore, um, but this is a huge opportunity for him to really do good by Canadian wrestling.
Mhm, mhm.
And I think that's why that video kind of irked me at the beginning, because it's like, Scott, you got money. And it doesn't matter how he got money. You know, people know that his family was wealthy and he still made smart decisions and has worked very hard. I'm not discrediting that. But you're not the focal point. Put the focal point on the wrestlers. Make them stars. Let that be your legacy. You don't need to be seen to have that type of legacy in Canada. And I think that I want this to succeed so much that I'm so passionate about it, that none of this is a hit on any of the talent. It's not even a hit on Scott or any agents or anybody there that I might have a history with, that I'm not too fond of them. This is literally thinking like, man, I know the struggle of being Canadian and want to make it as a pro wrestler. And damn, is it hard. I mean, the hardest thing I ever did was make wrestling a living and be easy, but it was so worth it when I made a living and made it so easy to be able to understand this.
Mhm.
And it's like, I'm glad the path I took, but some of these guys, I'm like, you bastards, you don't understand how easy you have it right now.
Especially
Don't
some of the
waste this
young ones. The
opportunity.
young guys, they're like
Yeah.
25 or under.
And they're getting a work visa. It's like, man,
Yeah.
I literally felt like I was smuggling crack across the border,
Oh
telling
yeah.
people that I was going to train instead of wrestle, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
Because it could be the ban for, I mean, look at Speedball. Speedball got banned for 5 years.
Yep. Yep. And it's, yeah, like 5 years. That's like that could break your career.
It could. He's fortunate enough that
He
I
made,
shouldn't say
yeah, he
fortunate enough.
figured it out.
He was yeah, he was talented and driven enough to go to Japan and keep his name in the press, and I applaud him because I think
Yeah.
Speedball is amazing. I mean, one of my favorite wrestlers, one of my favorite
Mm,
opponents. Um, and I love Canadian wrestling so much because I know, as I said, I just know how hard it was. You know what I mean? I think about how hard I worked. I know how hard Josh worked, how hard Ethan worked, how hard, Diener and Spears had to work. And it's like, it's a little bit easier for you guys. And I'm happy, but make the best of it because we did not get these opportunities. And I don't think, honestly, I would say without our success, I don't know how popular Canadian wrestling would have got. And you got to put
mm,
in Kevin and Zayn, Sami Zayn with that.
yeah.
Because truly, if you think about Canadian wrestling for years, it was highlighted by the guys that came out of it. And the reason why shows started taking off like C4 was because they used the perfect mix of US talented US top indie guys and Canadian unknowns and Canadian talent. So
Mhm.
we were all putting things together and showcasing the Canadian promotion. And without a lot of us opening doors to connections and relationships with these other companies, with these other wrestlers. I mean, I don't know how many times over my career I'm working for a promoter in Canada. Hey, you work with so and so, right? Can you get a
Oh yeah.
contact? And then I would reach out. I'm like, hey, man, this is my buddy. If it's a day that you really can't fill, or you know, whatever, can you be kind on the rate, and I'll make sure you're taken care of, type thing. And most of us have a relationship that's like, yeah, man, I'll do that for you as a solid. And it would always help people out because that match might change somebody's career if it gets in front of the right eyes.
Mhm. Yes. So we went on a tangent there, and
But I think it was
uh,
fitting. I think it was important to express,
absolutely, yeah. It's
because like you said in the opening, it's easy to critique. It's easy to rage bait people into agreeing or disagreeing.
yeah.
But when you start asking questions, you start receiving answers, and sometimes the more answers you get, the more questions you have, which in wrestling isn't always a bad thing.
Mm,
Because think about it, if I go on a tangent about this, Now think about if I'm writing TV and I've already talked about thinking 365 days, 52 weeks away from the first episode, how detailed I'm going to be about everything you see and how important everything is going to be. And that's what makes must see TV.
And yeah, just to hammer home, we're not on here to rage bait. We welcome discussion, and I'm sure people get passionate or argumentative about it. That's cool, but as long as we
Yeah,
keep it respectful, and it's just looking at a public, I guess, work of art, for lack
yes.
of a better term, and having a conversation about it, because at the end of the day, it's subjective, and we all have opinions on it, and we just think that our opinions are, I guess, people like watching it. I mean, they do
Freeze?
watch it. So I was saying that we're not here to rage bait, and we're just taking a public piece of art, which is,
Yes, I heard
for
that
lack of a
part.
better term, and you know, offering subjective opinion on it that we think people would like to watch, and I mean, even invite discussion on it.
Yeah, I think because as a wrestling fan, which I am at heart and always will be, I want it to be the best it can be.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying I have the ultimate vision. Like I said, I think there needs to be three people in charge. You know what I mean? I think there needs to be three because two opinions outweigh one, but also one person can still sway two people. And I think even with booking ideas, the same as putting a match together, your belief in your idea, if it can be transferred to somebody else, not manipulated, not swindled, not changed, but if you can speak passionately about something, sometimes it, or I get 25% of it, or sorry, 75% of it, that elicits many ideas, which helps think that far in advance. And I just think sometimes there's either too many or there's one overpowering voice that might not be the best overpowering voice that could be utilized to progress everything cleaner and easier to digest, but also more likely that I want to follow.
yes, that was all brilliant, and I think we'll bring it back to the show now. But we had the promo with the tag team champions, and then we went
Yes.
into the um, sorry, it was the tag team contenders, who, the grizzled, the
Young
grizzled young
vets.
veterans, and the other team, it was Jesse Bieber and Johnny Deluca. I don't know, do you know any of these guys? Do you
I
know
just
of
know
them?
them from being on posters.
Yeah.
And I don't think this match needed to be so long.
Like, I mean, the goal of the match is clearly to get the grizzled young vets over,
Yes.
and they definitely looked strong.
Yes.
It's I guess they wanted to give the other team some stuff, but it was I don't think it
I
accomplished anything.
Yeah, I think that again, I do not know these guys. This is not coming from a place of hatred.
Yeah.
That wasn't your night. It
Yeah.
wasn't your night to get anything in. I think I think it was Bieber that kind of sold a little bit out of place for their role on the TV show, like almost trying to get a reaction to his selling rather than to a reaction of what made him sell. And some people get into that when they get those opportunities to be an extra. And I'm not even saying that that's a bad that people haven't succeeded by trying to do that, but that wasn't their role. And if it's my show, as I said, I'm looking this as as a booker. I'm looking this
Yeah.
as a producer. I'm not looking as a wrestler because a wrestler me might say, "Yeah, I'm going to try to get it over a little bit," but producer and writer me goes, "And if you do try to, you're never coming back because I need you to tell a story. And if you're too involved in your own story, you always want to try to be the hero, right? I mean, it's literally in everything. The villain always tries to justify his poor behavior. I think we always try to justify something when it's not always justifiable.
And I mean, like, it was just pointless. Like, there was one point where Bieber was showboating at one point, and then he ended
Yes.
up just getting beat up anyway. So basically, he just
Right.
looked like a dumbass. And I
Yes.
mean, I think Don Callis made a comment on commentary about how he was showboating, but really, it didn't come off as showboating. It just came off as him just being
Yeah, that's what I mean.
stupid.
It wasn't
And
needed. This is
it
solely
didn't do him any favors either.
no. It was solely to get I understand the format too, right? You show the tag team champions promo, then you show a tag match with obviously people you hope to have as contenders win a match. I get that. It should have been briefer. It should have been a little bit more rougher for the grizzled young vets. Like I think they should have been more rough in more places. I think both of them can be rough wrestlers, but I think they needed to look a little rough. And the finesse they showed was great. Their double team stuff, excellent. Their footwork, excellent. Their placement in front of the camera, excellent. They clearly have great training and have the possibility to be stars, I think, wherever they go. They're good wrestlers. They know what they need to do. I just think this needed to be solely a highlight on them. I would have almost rather, ding, ding, ding. They lock up. One of them grabs, Bieber like grabs a head, maybe something to dump him off. The other guy comes in, flip him off, tag in, double team one. Other one comes in, double team two, tag back in, hit the finisher, 1, 2, 3. Like just need to be boom, 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 boom. Get a little roughness in, get a couple spots in, a couple sequences to get people excited, show that you're contenders, and then on commentary, something mentioned about the grizzled young vets are a team that undoubtedly has aspirations to be MLP Canadian Tag Team Champions or something,
Or they
right?
could have even cut a promo because I think you could get
Yeah, I
over with
don't think
words
they.
too.
I think I don't. I think the only reason no promo here, I think we insert the promo in week 2.
Mm. Yeah.
You're right because you got to think if you put too much in one, what leaves it? And if they're not going to wrestle, but they did get a win on the premiere episode, which you hope at some point there's going to be at least a tag team title match. You want to present them often, but you can't have them wrestle all the time. So you got to mix up like a wrestling, a promo, a video package, a week off, and then get back to a match. It's like you got to find a cycle for people that nobody's forgotten. Sometimes I think that's what AEW is missing. Sometimes is they'll highlight something or somebody for a couple weeks and then they disappear for so long. AEW's gotten better at it, but that's my fear with Maple Leaf Pro.
Mm. So then we had another promo with Johnny TV, which is John Morrison, Johnny Mundo,
Yeah.
whatever name, and whatever they did a promo of him talking, and he said some things, and then they set up. I think next week he's going to wrestle TJ
Yes.
Perkins, and
Yes, which is great.
yeah, that'll definitely be a kick-ass match. Have you worked with? I know you probably worked with Johnny. Have you worked with TJ too? Yeah.
I've worked with both. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that showing Johnny TV promo and next week very smart. We kind of talked about it, about the Psycho Mike package, and that's kind of why I suggested that because I remember them saying next week for Johnny TV, and I think next week, as I said, give some spaces for this. There's room to make some further advancements in what's coming next because a preview for next week is always good, right?
Yeah.
Give a tease. So obviously, Tana, that doing that with Johnny was great. Announcing against TJ Perkins, a lot of wrestling fans. Now, the casual fans might not be too familiar with them, but I think it's going to take a little bit before the casuals get on MLP. And I think part of it is good storytelling and getting people talking positively about it. And I think the more they do that, they'll catch casual fans, which I understand, using Rhyno. I understand using TJ Perkins, Johnny TV. I think these are all great choices to use. I just hope, like I said bringing up Rhino earlier, I think there was a better path for that. But I think this was a good promo to lead into next week to want to see the debut of somebody that's highly recognizable.
And then we moved on to the main event, which was Giselle Shaw versus Alice Crowley. Um, what were your thoughts on this?
So I brought up how I'm familiar with Giselle and Alice. You should actually drive up to St. Louis from Indianapolis.
Mm.
Um, to train. I had a group of people. It was actually her, Megan Bine, some guys named Kevin Giza, uh, Logan James, and Tyler Matrix, and a couple other people would come up here and there and train. Ace Perry, and I always thought she was very talented, and I think both of those girls worked their butts off. I think that it was a good match. I think there was some different choices that could have been made. I think one thing that lacked a lot was selling, especially from the heels. Like right before the cutoff, Giselle took the drop kicks to the knee and drop kick to the head, and then was in the corner, and the camera was on her. And instead of selling the pain, she was kind of selling the anger. And that's a point where you should have been selling the pain, and then that brief second of pulling them into the buckle, and then you progressively come out of the pain to the pissed off look. And I think that is what the difference is with TV wrestling compared to indie wrestling, is emoting your feelings and what you want the crowd to understand has to come through your body language and facial expression when you should be hurt and you're way clear enough. But that's like the fine art of what we do. And there's going to be some inevitable times that I will have to discuss those things. But then this is going to be a Joe Rogan podcast, and we're going to have to talk about 3 hours and say how I would redo a match. And you know what I mean? So it's just overall, I think this was a smart choice for me. They delivered, but I think they could have delivered better with maybe a little bit more experience and a little bit more guidance when it comes how to wrestle on TV and why we're doing things. I think that that is missing because it's not preached upon to people by enough people. They only hear it from one or two out of 30 people that they talk to. And we need to change that to where they're hearing it out of 20, 25 people out of 30 people they talk to, so that people start to recognize it.
Yeah, I think this was kind of like the first match in that, like, it would have, like you said, it would have benefited if they had more defined roles of what they were
Yes.
doing in this. And I think Alice, like, I looked her up and I could see that she's been a bunch of places, but I still get the sense she's still figuring it out.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and like as far as just if I was just evaluating her as just a wrestler, I didn't really get much of what to think of her as far as an opinion,
Right.
as like her character or her
Agreed.
motives, or and but like in terms of the execution of everything, like everything was safe and on point. And there's, I think there's a couple things that we could go through and nitpick that we don't need to, where it's like, just close these gaps and things like that.
Yeah. I think the overall story is we need a stronger definition of who somebody is going to
Yeah.
be moving forward. And I think that's lost a lot. And I know that's hard in an hour TV show. But I think what we just said, if we tightened up a couple things that were unnecessary and added a couple things, I think that it would have been a little bit easier to digest, to allow people to go, man, that was good TV. Because I think we spoke before, I felt like even though these are critiques, it didn't seem like I watched a full hour. Like it
Yeah.
went by
Oh,
very
yeah, yeah,
smoothly.
yeah.
It was good transition, good edits, good thoughts of how to lay it out. I think the structure was good, but it needed some fine tuning. And I think with that fine tuning, it's going to be one of the breeziest TV shows you can watch. And I think hour long wrestling, I think 90 minutes is about the sweet spot, really.
Mhm.
But with 60 minutes, I think they can really do something impressive that leads to greener pastures. And I think we'll develop that over time as we talk about the shows. But I would think like I would be thinking of some kind of event, whether we have those two laid out, and then maybe year two, maybe we add another big event and we slowly progress to get well known. And now with people with work visas, you can be like, oh, this big show for the first time is going to be outside of Canada. And I
Mhm.
think that's a good thing. Like
Mhm.
I really have high hopes um for what it could be because I've dreamed about running a TV wrestling promotion. I have so many ideas.
Mhm.
And it seems like any idea that I have fully put to fruition in my life has come out pretty dang successfully.
And I think yeah, it's a good point where like all these wrestling programs are they're so long these days, and like 60 minutes, it's kind of refreshing to where like you can just get in, get some things over, and get out and move on with your day.
Yeah.
And I think yeah, I'd agree with the sentiments that like the goals I think should be to focus on your champions. And
Yes.
I think a lot of throughout the things throughout the show was just convoluted,
Yeah.
and a lot of it was like lack of definition on roles, and I think that was
Yes.
those were the common themes. But yeah, so the main event was well done, and then we had a closing skit or promo segment where Stu Grayson came out to the outside, and there was a you could see there's a woman on the ground that she's injured or something, and then Rohan Raja jumps him, and they went into a bit of a brawl, and then they ended the show with Rohan over top of the champion Stu Grayson. What were your thoughts on this?
I think right thoughts, execution could have be
Yeah.
figured out a little bit better. And why
Yeah.
I say that is I don't think you used the valet yet. I do not think you used the valet yet. That's why, as I'm
Well, it's
saying,
not even established.
right.
Like
But I mean,
it,
she was there with
like
his
the
promo.
yeah, but like who is she, or like
I
who are
know.
these
Is she,
people?
yeah,
You know?
exactly. So that's why, as I said, you have to go from the start and end. And when I'm thinking, you needed him coming out at the front. You needed a clear layout of who him and her is. He needs to disrespect Stu because Stu had a promo post match, and I think that promo should have discussed that disrespect and saying something about, you know, as representing Canada, I will not be disrespected because this championship, myself, and this sport will not be disrespected in a country that holds wrestling just as important as hockey, let's say. You know what I mean? Like you really emphasize that. And then in the back, just have Gresham maybe come up and be like, hey, you know, as I said, then we should have had a babyface match. Have a small interaction with Gresham there. Maybe the handshake wasn't in the ring, it's here because they couldn't shake hands because of the interruption by Rohit. And then we have that. And then as Gresham walks off, then it's like blindside by Rohit. And it's the girl that says, no, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Here's coming Gresham. Gresham comes to the save. They leave. Stu's, you know, laid out. Gresham, the babyface who lost in the opening championship, still came to save him. There's the sneak attack. We define that, okay, she's looking out for him by saying, Gresham's coming, we got to go, we got to go. That opens up so many possibilities because now I know, okay, here's step. Here's finish. And we have an angle that prepares right for Josh, which I told you we should have talked about earlier. And that would be a whole nother podcast to lay out the angle because reviewing this made me think, okay, I need to get the title to Roe, but I need Gresham to cost Stu the title to fully heel turn. Then I need the valet involved. How can I use the valet? Okay, I have ideas to use the valet. Okay, now why do we need the heel champion? Well, he said he's the only real champion because Josh forfeited when I discussed the promo earlier. And then when Josh finally comes back, he has a clear cut heel with a manager to cheat Now we have the babyface chase to the championship. The babyface that never lost the title, that was forced to forfeit it for injury. What a story. How many paths do we have here? There's our big 6-month show. Is Josh coming back? Gresham turning heel. I'm already booked there. And then what's my first year television? Do I want Josh as champ? Well, maybe we shouldn't have him chase it for 6 months. So maybe we got to pit him in about 2 months and then define a challenger for the first year anniversary. See how far I'm thinking of it? That's why I can't talk wrestling. I could have booked the whole territory. I would have. I'm telling you, you give me all the talents they want to use in their dates, I'll book the territory for a year in 2 days, because that's just how my mind works. I'm seeing every option. It's like Final Destination for wrestling.
Yeah.
Right, instead of seeing the horrific death that's about to approach, it's like I see every possible way that an angle can go and what the outcome will be. So now what do we want the outcome to be, and that's the choice I make. It's crazy how I see wrestling.
And yeah, circling back to the closing segment, I think again, just a convoluted focus on what the business was, which
Yes.
is they just needed the heel to stand over the champion and leave that
Yep.
kind of image. But like Stu comes out, he sees like a trap, I guess, and
Yeah.
and he gets jumped, but like it was like way in the it was
Yep.
the shot was poor. It was way out, and like he comes from like 10 feet away and jumps him. But then they kind of brawled into like what seemed like a wrestling match.
Yes.
And I
Yeah,
felt
should
like
have been no brawl.
yeah, like it, but not even like they could have brawled, but not like this. I feel like it just came off as kind of phony.
No, see,
And
I think that's what everybody wants to stay strong.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can't be strong if you don't show weakness. You have to overcome.
yeah.
Stu should have not fought back at all. It needed to be, I'm telling you, it needed to be a blind side, a boom, boom, boom. Somebody makes the save, and it should have been Gresham. As I said, there was a layout for this show, and I think it would have been better suitable. That's on nobody's. I would have loved to sit in and just hear everything, the agents, the writers, the producers, to understand their vision, because maybe their vision's better than mine. But if it is, I can't see it. And not being able to see it on your debut episode, I want to be close to the result. Like, as I said, I need options. I need things to lead options. I need my mind to go, what could happen? And then when I see what happens, I go, damn, if I had really thought hard about it, I see that happening. And now it makes sense. And that's the hook. And that's what keeps people exciting. I mean, it's like I watched The Odyssey today, 3-hour movie. I didn't even get up to take a piss. I couldn't. I was so attached to the story. It was great storytelling with the camera work, with the dialogue. I don't care what any critics say. They wouldn't use certain words in that times and this and that. It's Hollywood, and it was greatly done. And wrestling is like the C movie universe, maybe even D
Yeah.
quality movie, but it can still be great because some of those things become cult classics. And as long as TV has been a thing, wrestling has been one of the forefront runners of what programs are on television. I mean, back when television first became a thing, wrestling was one of the very first things on TV.
Yep.
And we're losing that feel of episodic. Yes, it has to be sport, but it has to be episodic. You need the best of both worlds. I mean, UFC figured it out. That's why everybody started cutting pro wrestling promos, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Conor McGregor, and I know there's accusations against him. I'm not speaking on that. I'm just speaking of at Conor McGregor's peak, it was because he was just a pro wrestler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything he said, everything he did was being a pro wrestler.
Mhm.
Like, that's all. And everybody before, Chael Sonnen, pro wrestler.
Oh yeah.
Like, all the guys that make a ton of money usually are pretty much taking everything from pro wrestling. I mean, go as far back to Muhammad Ali. Do you know where Muhammad Ali says he got a lot of his stuff from, right?
Gorgeous George, or
Yes.
Gorgeous George. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Right? So it's like, if pro wrestling really is everywhere, and we don't see it. And then I think as it became more relevant, wrestling became a little lost.
It's in, well, yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. It's where I was gonna go with this is that, like, it seems like other genres take pro wrestling and like make it bigger, whereas pro wrestling kind of just,
Yeah.
stagnates. But, and I like, of course, like, we're of the educated opinion, so it sounds like we're nitpicking on these things, but I feel like as a general audience that watches these things, what happens is they just
Yeah.
the angles don't get over, the characters don't get over, and then
Right.
the general fan will just lose interest. So really, with us having this discussion and pointing these things out, what we're trying to do is just help people understand, but then also, hopefully achieve something that's more effective.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. None of this is hey, everything sucks and we know, right? Like, some people have podcasts or a voice in the space that seem that way, and that's usually rage bait. Think that too much stuff is getting lost in translation because nobody's looking at wrestling as if it's real, not even the people that are doing it.
Yeah.
And if we don't look at it like it's real, then the audience doesn't look at it like it's real. And I know that seems ridiculous, but like, wrestling is at its best when people
Believe in it.
really feel, or if a move or if a strike was real or not. That gets people emotionally invested more. And like you're saying, the defining of the characters and defining of where the story is leading can help bring the audience along. And the stronger the audience participation, the better the overall viewing experience is, but also the more that the promotion becomes a viable place to make money. So if you can make money there, people are going to want to be on your shows. If people want to be on your shows, that means you're going to be successful because good word is spreading. And if good word is spreading, you're hoping it's because you're putting out a product that's easily followable, that makes people better than they were before they became part of your a future with, build them. And that's why I think there's a way to utilize Rhyno a little bit differently. Yes, you need him to get over a little bit, but there's some directions. If you start, as I said, I would have loved to sat with the breaks, write down my vision of what would happen and where they're all leading, because I think they're on the right path and they have the right chess pieces. I think that they were either afraid to make some movements or didn't feel that those movements were to be made, and I think they were incorrect in the movements that they didn't make, but they did make many correct movements. They just weren't fully committed to those movements to where they needed to be, I don't believe.
And that's going to wrap it up. And so this is probably going to go out Wednesday morning, and another episode tonight. And I think we're going to break down next week, or we're going to do something else. Or
I think, I don't know. What do you think?
I think doing a couple weeks of this could at least, like, because judging pro wrestling in a vacuum is so limited, right? Like, so if we keep with this for at least a couple of weeks, then we can see where that goes. But this is Book to Draw. If you have comments, questions, you can hit up the YouTube page, and maybe we can break stuff down if you like, if you
if you have questions,
want to
please.
get questions. So that's going to do it. We're going to wrap this up. I'm Mr. Marvelous.
And I'm Michael Elgin.
And have a good night.